Hey, this is Leif Ganford. I played the cash register thief in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek Podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek Podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek Podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek Podcast.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to the Everything Geek Podcast. I'm your host, Ruari, and joining me is my fellow co-host, Dan.
Hello there.
And also joining us is very special guest, Eric Lopez, the voice actor for Mark Allan and Molten Man and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and Blue Beetle in Young Justice. So how are you, Eric?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. So, Eric, getting right into the questions. My first question is, how did you first decide you wanted to get into voice acting?
Well, I always knew I've been doing characters and impressions since I was a kid. And I always knew that I liked it. You know, I always preferred to speak as someone else rather than myself because I felt more comfortable that way. But I never knew about voice acting really or much about it until I moved to Los Angeles in 2001 to do stand-up comedy. And I used a lot of my voices and my characters in my stand-up act. And I literally just fell into it. A friend of mine referred me to a class. And I took the class, and there was an agent sitting in. And after the 6th week of the class, she said she set up an audition with her agent. And from there on, I've just been doing voiceover, and I'm really glad because it's such a fun industry to be in.
Yeah, definitely. My second question is, had you been a fan of Spider-Man before you got the role on the Spectacular Spider-Man as Mark Allan?
Yes, I was a big Spider-Man fan. I hadn't read a lot of comics because when I started to really get into comic books, I was way behind in all the Spider-Man titles. So I would pick up a title here and there, and I'm also an artist, an illustrator. I draw a lot too, so I used to draw Spider-Man all the time. But I was a huge fan of the animated shows. The animated television shows from the 80s and the I think it was the 80s and the 70s and 80s. So yeah, I was definitely a big Spider-Man fan.
Yeah, it's really cool. My third question is, did you record with the rest of the Spectacular Spider-Man cast? If so, who did you get to meet?
Yes, I did get to record with we all came in depending on what the scene was. Or how many different scenes we all had together, they would get the actors together and they would put us all in one big sound studio. And I got to meet pretty much like everybody, like all the big names in voiceover and voice acting, and it was really intimidating at first, but it was really cool because everybody's really nice. Everybody's super nice. There's no big egos in the voice acting world. I got to meet Phil Lamarr, who I was a big fan of from Mad TV, and he was also I was a big fan of. I am a big fan of Samurai Jack, the animated show, and he played Samurai Jack on there. And I mean, he's all over the place. He's huge in the animation
Oh yeah,
world.
definitely. He really
Yeah,
is.
and I got to work with Vanessa Marshall. She's great.
I got to interview her in an earlier episode of the podcast.
Yeah, she's the one that introduced me to your show, and
Yeah,
I was
she
really
did.
grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. I didn't know that she was the voice of Irwin on the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and I was a big fan of that show at the time. So that was really nice to meet her. I got to work with Kelly Hu, which was pretty. I was starstruck when I got to work with her. She's awesome. She's really nice too. I actually worked with her on Young Justice as well. So she's really
Nice.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. You definitely got to meet some really nice people then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my fourth question is, would you say you're better known for your Spectacular Spider-Man role or your Young Justice role?
Oh, that's a tough one. I that's such a hard one because I love them both.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that they're definitely probably your most well-known roles together, but when you try and separate them, then it gets tricky.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I love my role on the Spectacular Spider-Man because I got to play a villain. I mean, he wasn't a villain to begin with. He went through the process of being, a friend of Peter's, and he turned later. So I kind of like that. I like the dynamic of that role, but the Blue Beetle role is just there's so much. I mean, I was in so many episodes, and I got to work with so many different people, and it was such a big the Young Justice project was huge. They were always bringing in new people. I got to meet Tim Curry.
Nice.
It was huge. It was a huge thing, and it's up there. I mean, those two, I can't really pick. I love them both, and they're both really special to me. So I can't really say, but if I had to say for the amount of work, maybe I guess Blue Beetle, because he was more of a he had a larger role in the whole series of the Young Justice.
Yeah, definitely. My fifth and final question is, do you have any upcoming voice acting roles or other projects you'd like to talk about? I remember you mentioned via email that you provided a voice for the upcoming Batman Arkham Origins video game.
Yeah, that was fun. I play Bird. He's like Bane's main general, his main henchman, and he commands all the underlings. And that was a really fun role because in the video game, my character has a big fight scene with Batman. So that should be cool.
Yeah, that does sound really cool for sure. Anyway, thank you very much, Eric, for answering all of my questions, and I'll hand you over to Dan now.
Okay, you're welcome.
Really cannot wait to fight you in Origins. The game looks awesome.
It looks great, man.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna start off with Molten Man. Did you research and read comics featuring Molten Man to get ready for the role?
I did try to do some research. I went on the net. I researched. I went to the Marvel page, and there's not much out there on Molten Man. I think they kind of picked him out of obscurity. Greg Weisman has a tendency to do that, to find some of the most obscure characters and just pick them out, because I'd never heard of Molten Man, and I'd watched a lot of the animated shows, and I've read a good amount of the comics, but he was huge, I guess, in like the early days, like in the 70s. So I wasn't really familiar with him, but I did research his backstory and what his powers were and what he looked like. I actually even drew some sketches. I got my sketchbook and tried to sketch my own version of Molten Man. So yeah, I did some research. I always like to do research on the characters I'm playing to see if there's anything that I can find to maybe kind of bring to the role.
I was also very interested when I learned that he was gonna come on the show, because I also, prior to the series, I hadn't heard about Molten Man and was really interested that Spider-Man also had a fiery enemy from the comics.
I was really interested to see how he looked too, because there was only like one or two pictures online of
Yeah.
the comic book version. So I was really interested to see how Sean Galloway, the artist who designed the characters, would draw him.
Which was your favorite episode with Mark Allan, aka Molten Man?
It definitely is the one where he gets in the big fight with Spider-Man in the pool hall. I think it's called Subtext. The episode, it's just an all-out battle between Molten Man and Spider-Man, and it's kind of sad because, you know, Mark Allan was trying to be good. You know, he was trying to be a better person, and he was trying to get better from his old life of being a gambler and just a, you know, kind of like a thug.
Yeah.
And he was trying to be a better person, and then they came to him with that deal where he was going to be the experimental guinea pig for their new little gadget that they created. And then he turned into Molten Man, and he was just angry. So it was kind of uneasy watching it because, you know, I didn't want him and Spider-Man to fight, but I mean, that's how villains are made. You know, they're not always bad people who just get worse. They're sometimes good people who become bad. So that was probably my favorite episode of all.
If there was a third season, would you have preferred to have Molten Man go all good, or become vengeful over Peter hurting or dumping Liz and being humiliated by Spite? Because, you know, if there was a third season, Norman Osborn could have just come back and revealed to Mark that actually Peter and Spider are the same guy, and Mark could just choose, maybe he could just get back at Peter for doing both, basically.
Yeah, I guess I kind of would like Molten Man to stay in that gray area
Yeah.
where he's not completely bad, but not completely good either. Where like he's kind of like he's willing to help if it's for the greater good, but if it's just for himself, he'll still be bad. You know, I kind of like that gray area for a character like that. So it would be cool if they could kind of keep him in there somewhere in the middle where he could kind of do some dirt, kind of like a Catwoman type character
Yeah.
where she's kind of on Batman's side, but then sometimes she's not. I kind of like that whole thing, that gray area for those characters.
My fourth question would be, which character from the entire Young Justice show did you like other than Blue Beetle?
I really liked Impulse because not only because I got to work with I worked with Jason Marsden, the guy who played Impulse in that whole season. We worked like next to each other. We were side by side most of the time because we had a friendship in the show, and he was just a great character. Like his quick wit and like his energy. He's just a fun character, even though because like the whole time he's presenting himself as if he's this, you know, fly off the handle type of guy who doesn't really doesn't think things out very very much, but underneath he's from this terrible alternate future, or this terrible future that happens after Blue Beetle turns against the human race and helps the Reach take over the earth and enslaves humans, and he's from that time, so he has a really dark there's a dark person under there that he doesn't let out, that he hides very well, and I thought that was really cool for that character. It was just really fun, you know.
Indeed. Yeah, I actually really like the whole dark element to some of the Young Justice characters that seem, actually in the beginning they seem very basically like nice and everything's like really really cool, but then you just get to the bottom of it and you just see that something's wrong with them.
Yeah. It was there was definitely a fun little friendship because like in the show, Blue Beetle and Impulse are always together. He's always keeping an eye on him because he never knows when he's going to turn or who's going to turn him, because he all he knows is in the future this guy just ruins everything, just enslaves human beings, and he's trying to keep that from happening. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Indeed, yeah. My last question is, if games are made for both Young Justice and a Spider-Man game, and both Blue Beetle is a playable character in the Young Justice game, and Molten Man is the villain boss from the Spider-Man game, which would you be more willing and interested in returning as?
Oh, I would love to play Molten Man in a video game as a villain. That would be fun. It's always good to play. I've played a few villains in video games, a few like bad guys, like drug dealers and cartel guys. So that would be fun. I think those are always the funnest because you get to go all out.
Yeah.
You don't have to walk during a you don't have to walk a narrow path. You can kind of just go crazy with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've heard from several voice actors that actually they really like to play villains because sometimes it really allows them to ham up and just go all fun with it and just don't be like constrained by moral rules, quote unquote, basically, for the character.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It seems like it's much easier to be a jerk than be a nice guy in these shows, in these projects.
Yeah. Well, it does sound more fun, and I personally totally agree. Just villains for the win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much for answering my questions, Mr. Molten Man.
Welcome.
I will hand the torch back to Mr. Williamson.
Okay.
So, Eric, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and hopefully we can have you on the podcast again at some point, especially after Origins comes out and talk about the role of Bird.
Real quick, I got a question for you guys. What are your thoughts on the announcement of Ben Affleck as the new Batman?
Okay, Rory.
Dan?
Well, is this part of the big?
Yes, it is part of the podcast, so might as well discuss it now.
Yeah, I mean, Eric basically introed into the next topic of the podcast. So, well, I'm actually not that optimistic because there have been many people posting and being really negative, really positive, and so on. The problem is that with Ben Affleck, he's an amazing writer and director. As an actor, the problem is I recently watched Daredevil again. I don't. He doesn't feel like the superhero type. He could be an amazing director and writer because he did win Oscars for that. But when he tries to be like angry and aggressive and something that Batman has to be brooding, and I saw his outburst from Daredevil like a very very scary like foreshadowing for what he could be in Batman. And one video maker actually said really nicely, he could be amazing. We never know. Like people like to bring up the Heath Ledger argument, but Ben Affleck has quite a couple of movies that really show why he shouldn't be Batman. Let's say Michael Keaton was also a better Batman in some of the deeper scenes because he was all brooding inside and he didn't show much. And I'm not sure if Ben Affleck could portray that. I don't want to sound negative, but I'm feeling that could really be like a new George Clooney situation.
Yeah. I kind of got the same type of idea. I don't know. I mean, I'm really rooting for him. I don't want it to be bad. I love all the comic book movies that come out, and I'm always rooting for him. I really wanted Green Lantern to be good, but that wasn't that good.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping he can just really just shock everybody and really just blow everybody away because I want it to be good so bad, and I was excited when they announced it, but now I'm like, I kind of got some of the air taken out of it. I'm like, oh man, we'll see.
Rory, what is your opinion on Ben Affleck as Batman?
Well, I'm going to say it right away. I haven't seen Daredevil, so, I can't agree or disagree with any arguments made against or with, his inclusion. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't really know what to say. I also think if we're going to discuss comparisons, I know this one isn't actually fantasy related, but with James Bond, after Pierce Brosnan, a really well-known actor, stepped down from the role as Bond, no one wanted to see Daniel Craig as James Bond. I don't think anyone actually would have liked to see Daniel Craig become Bond before he was announced. And then we come to Casino Royale. Everyone is all over Daniel Craig because Bond was amazing. That movie. It was one of the greatest Bond movies. And then we get to Anonymous Solace. That was terrible. Even I would agree with that one. Yeah. Then we have Skyfall. again, everyone's all over Daniel Craig. I think safe to say at this stage, Craig is one of the most popular Bonds of all time. So, no, could end up like that. But yeah, anyway, getting back to Ben Affleck, yeah, I'm not gonna judge him too soon. I will still watch the movie, and I kind of like. I don't mind just a little bit of negativity or not optimism, but then when I read comments like, "Oh, I'm not gonna go see Man of Steel 2 now," and comments like that, I'm just like, "What?"
Yeah, I think when people say that, I think it's out of anger. They're gonna go see it because if they don't go see it to try to enjoy it, they'll at least go see it so they can be some of the first to talk trash about it. So.
Yeah,
exactly. They'll go to see it and spend money on it just so they can go online and troll afterwards all over the internet. Hey, guess what? Ben Affleck sucks.
Yeah,
yeah.
So basically, what most of those people who say they won't go now will actually do when the time comes.
This Ben Affleck thing could be negative, but see how much attention. I mean, my feeds on Facebook and YouTube were overwhelmed by Ben Affleck reactions.
I agree.
Indeed, and even if the casting is not the best one, because given Hollywood has some amazing potential in terms of male actors.
Yeah, it's someone pretty much everyone has heard of.
Yeah.
You know.
This is bringing a lot of buzz, because imagine if they just chose an actor everybody has faith in, or some great actor with a great chin, because people sometimes say Batman has to have a great chin. It's like, okay, so the hype will not be as much as it is now.
Yeah.
So you think the negative press has a positive effect on the movie then?
Well, it does attract attention, and like you guys said, people, even those who are not fans of the movie or not like Ben Affleck, will go to see the movie just to get themselves proven wrong. Even if people are hating on this news and stuff, they will go and see this movie and just to see if Ben Affleck sucks. And maybe he will not suck, and it will be the greatest Batman portrayal to date.
Yeah.
Again, and people will be interested because even the naysayers are gonna go, the hardcore fans will go, the Superman fans will go. So basically, this is kind of a smart move because even bad press is better than no press. Maybe.
Yeah, hopefully things will change when some stills, like some images, come to light, and they you get to see him in the suit and maybe or maybe a first teaser trailer or something to get everybody on board.
Indeed, yeah, because like with the reveal of Electro, I mean the first footage official teaser of
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx as Electro. We saw him in full makeup, and electricity-wise, didn't look that epic as I expected. I mean, he just looked like electrical Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin.
Yeah, he did look like Mr. Freeze. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, and you're right. This basically, when we see Ben Affleck in full suit and saying anything, we basically will know better.
Yeah.
And I just want to bring up one thing on the Electro point. Like, I've never even been a huge fan of Electro myself, but when in that footage we got, when he's basically was saying, "I'm Electro," I just thought, okay, I wasn't a huge fan of the Spectacular Spider-Man, but that didn't sound anywhere near as cool. It's just like, "I'm Electro," compared to, "I'm Electro." Really, really badass like that. And I'd probably suck at doing either voice, but that's what it felt like. It was like, "Oh, I'm bored. I'm Electro." Then the other one, "I'm Electro."
Oh my.
You may have a future in voice acting, Rory.
I probably sounded nothing like him, but you get the idea. That hurt a little bit. But
You basically became the electrical Batman.
what?
Okay, sorry, that was...
Okay. So anyway, Eric, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast, and we can't wait to talk to you again when Arkham Origins is released.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
It was indeed.
So talk to you some other time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All right, guys.
good luck.
Oh, thank you very much. You too, guys. Good luck with the podcast and everything.
Thank
And
you.
I can't wait to talk to you guys again. I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was a very fun interview, what you saying?
Yeah, I love that. Really like how he introduced us into the discussion about Ben Affleck, because he did bring up really good points that, made me think about it. And basically, even though I'm still still not sure about the whole Ben Affleck thing. Again, time will tell.
Well, at least you're not hating on it. Well, you're not really hating on it, or just a bit uncertain, really, not hating.
Well, no, I'm just afraid that Ben Affleck is a great director and writer, and not that amazing of an actor. Basically, he's a director and writer first, actor fifth, because he did win Oscars for his movies, but he did not win Oscars for how he was acting in those movies.
The way I've always seen it, it's good to have, writers, artists, directors, etc. in movies, but only as, cameo appearances, yeah.
Like Peter Jackson.
And George Lucas, Baron Papanoida, Avenger the Sith.
Yeah, even though, speaking of Papanoida, I really, 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 really wanted in season 3 to hear his voice as Papanoida.
Anyway, moving on to the next topic and sticking with Star Wars. There has been new episode 7 news during the week, and I don't think it's a rumor. The news is that it will be shot on film, not digital, with a 35mm camera to go for a 70s feel, just like the original trilogy. So what do you make of that, Dan?
She made it out like, this is like the good old days, don't forget it, we're gonna go against what the prequels did. And basically with this announcement with a 35mm thing, it's basically to show that this is, please OT fans, trust us, come back to us, we're not the prequels, watch us. That's Kennedy and Lucasfilm's statement. We're gonna do it like it was once in the good old days. Because a lot of the older fans hate the prequels because they did use too much CGI, the acting was not on par with the originals, the characters were much wooden, as people say, even though some of the villains were really better, because when you think about it, the stormtroopers in the originals suck, and the battle droids and the separatist droids from the Confederacy are really a great enemy, because they really present the threat. The stormtroopers were a joke.
Yeah, I completely agree, yeah. Hey, have you ever heard that one about a stormtrooper killing an enemy? No, I haven't either.
And I have seen in even the Revenge of the Sith how those spider droids killed those clones on the beaches of Kashyyyk. Even that was pretty obvious.
Yeah, I think the new Rebels series will portray stormtroopers in a better light, because you have to remember at the start when if the Empire was first formed, the stormtroopers were like still clones, but then throughout the 20 years in between Sith and A New Hope, it was mainly, volunteers, and I mean, these people, they aren't properly trained, so to speak. So yeah.
Actually, there were both volunteers, but there were also people who were trained at academies.
It was a mixture, really.
Yeah, but again, it's a great move by Disney to have these news about going to the old days, going to the traditional method of making Star Wars movies. That will get the viewers coming back.
The old fans.
Yeah, the old fans that got really disappointed and lost faith in the new Star Wars movies and didn't want to come back to the new things. So basically, this is a way for them to come back to loving the new movies.
Yeah, I completely know what you mean, yeah. I think ever since, episode 7 was announced, like, a lot of the original trilogy fans who haven't really been paying much attention to the community with the prequels and, the only ongoing Star Wars thing being the Clone Wars, amazing TV show. Aside from that, they really didn't need to say a lot in the community because, they didn't have anything new. Now that the sequel trilogy is coming, now they're back in a lot of force. So moving on, I don't know if this technically is the last discussion topic. I'm not sure if if it's something you want to talk about, but I'll talk about it because it's fairly important for anime fans, and we need to bring up a few more anime topics here and there. But there has been a trailer recently, the Japanese trailer anyway, for an upcoming Pokemon Origins TV special. Now, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to Pokemon in the last while, even before this podcast, really, because, I've always been a fan of the original series, the Hoenn series, and the Sinnoh series, but then I was eagerly anticipating the newest series, which came out like 1 or 2 years ago, with English voices, obviously with, the not Japanese version, and it basically came out, and after about 20 episodes, maybe 30, I gave up on it. Really, I kind of forced myself to watch most of those episodes, because after 4 or 5 of them, I was just fed up with that new series. That new series being the one that they really could never decide on the actual name for. Best Wishes, aka Black and White, because, got called both a lot of times. So I pretty much gave up on that, but now they have this announcement of the Pokemon Origins special, and I'm interested in. I mean, I have most of the original Pokemon games for the Game Boy Advance, and I remember when I was very young and really had nothing else to do, I played them pretty much every day, and they're going to be using the characters from those games, which should be interesting to see. The trailer itself was very nice as well. I think we saw some of the characters we did actually get to know as well in the actual Pokemon anime itself as well, like Professor Oak, Brock, and Gary Oak. I think we saw all of them in the trailer, as well as some of the video game characters like Red and all that. Well, we still don't have official confirmation. I think that they're going to be using those exact names, but I'm interested in seeing where it goes with this. With Pokemon Origins Special, it's definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye out for more information on. But yeah, it should be good. I'm definitely very excited about it. First, I've been excited for anything Pokemon related really ever since Black and White was the first day that Black and White was coming out, and I was disappointed that day. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, is it a TV series or is it a TV special? Why?
I think it's a special, and if it gets very well received, they're going to make into a series. That's what I've heard.
I didn't like the trailer. It was really sloppy, and it's not the way I can see a trailer to hype people. It was basically long scenes, long, slow music. It tried to be epic, but it just...
I get what you're saying, Dan.
Think how Clone Wars episode trailers are cut. I mean, think of the season 1 trailer or the season 5 trailer, how they're cut. They're all fast-paced. They really get you hyped.
So on that note,
yeah,
moving on to our weekly Name That Franchise and Geekly trivia questions. So again, this first off, it will be Name That Franchise. So if you can't remember what it is, we're basically going to tell you a quote, and you have to guess what franchise it's from, and if you can guess exactly who says it, and well, if it's a movie series, TV series, video game, etc., if you can name exactly which one it is of the specific releases, then even more perks for that. But so here is this week's Name That Franchise. We both know that I now have to kill you. You'll just have to imagine the fire. Moving on to the Geekly trivia question. Which Harry Potter actress is known for arriving last minute to an audition and tripping into a table in front of the director David Yates? So obviously it's from one of the later Harry Potter films, because David Yates wasn't the director of the first. So if you think you know the answer to either Name That Franchise or Geekly trivia question, be sure to leave the answers that you think on either the comments on the YouTube link or our Facebook page. So are you ready to wrap up?
I think I am.
Yeah. So make sure to check out our YouTube channels. The podcast is www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/separatist-destroyers. Dan's is www.youtube.com/user/DineGrievousReturns. And check out some of Eric's credits on the Behind the Voice Actors website, www.behind behindthevoiceactors.com/Eric Lopez. So geeks out, everyone.
Geeks out.